Hey, it's Osman with House Einstein, and today is July 10th, 2020. This is an analysis of market conditions for Boulder real estate. If you haven't met me before, I am the founder of House Einstein. I've been in the real estate industry for 15 years, and prior to that, I was in the investment analysis community. Our company is entirely built to help you make smarter real estate decisions, and we're based right here in Boulder, Colorado. This first slide shows a chart from Showing Time. And Showing Time is a company that provides services to the real estate community. Primarily, they schedule showings with owners, and they verify buyers' agents are licensed and have the correct showing information. So they are a B2B service provider, and they dominate the market here in Colorado. And so their data is pretty good. And this chart shows you what happened during the coronavirus shutdown. The blue line is the weekly average showing activity in the state of Colorado in 2019. The orange line is the showing activity in 2020. And you can see that large dip that occurred beginning in early March. And you can see showing activity fell to almost zero. I mean, 100% below the previous year's showing activity, and then it came back as the market started to unlock, and by the middle of May, showing activity had more or less normalized. And keep in mind that this data is based on a 7-day moving average, and it begins at the beginning of the year. So what's in the data? First, I just want to draw a distinction between what I call Boulder proper and data that is the city of Boulder. And of course, we're in Boulder County as well, which sometimes confuses people. So when we talk about the Boulder real estate market, we may be talking about the county, we may be talking about the city, which includes Gun Barrel, or perhaps we're talking about Boulder proper, which traditionally doesn't include Gun Barrel. We might be talking about houses, we might be talking about attached dwellings, we could also be talking about the income market. So understanding that what data we're discussing is critical. And throughout this presentation, we're mostly talking about Boulder proper, but I am going to include some data and some charts for the city of Boulder, the entire city of Boulder, which includes Gun Barrel. And that means Heatherwood, and that means the country club neighborhood, and everything that's out in Gun Barrel. So the other aspect of this data is that it's primarily from the MLS, which means that we're looking at arm's length transactions. Okay, this next slide talks about the change in sales volume. First, let's look at the city of Boulder, including Gun Barrel. That's at the top. And last year, during the second quarter, there were 286 sales for single-family houses. This is only single-family houses, no attached dwellings, no condos or townhomes. And this year, during the second quarter, only 183 houses sold. That's a 36% reduction in sales volume overall. And for Boulder proper, it drops even further. There were 204 sales during the second quarter of 2019, and there were only 121 this year. And I had to double check this. I was actually a little bit surprised that sales volume fell that far, but it did. And effective the end of June, the quarter just ended, sales volume fell almost 41% for single-family houses. Well, what happened to prices? That's really one of the most important questions that buyers and sellers want to know, and it's also what we do in advising our clients when we're developing a strategy to help them buy or sell a house. And this chart looks at house sales in Boulder proper only, no townhomes or condos, no Gun Barrel, and we're looking at it across a range of prices relative to negotiated discounts from the asking price. So the x-axis is the asking price, the y-axis is the premium or negotiated discount that occurred in their negotiation for the property. So at closing, these are the prices they actually paid. And the red line there in the middle means 0% negotiated discount or premium, i.e. the asking price. And one of the first things you can note is that we're only going from 500,000 to about 3 million. There are some properties that sold during the quarter that are in excess of 3 million, but if we start looking at the handful of very high-end deals, the data gets so compressed that you can't actually see much of what's going on for the meat of the market. And the meat of the market is typically below 2, and this chart actually goes to 3. And what you'll notice right off the bat is that there's a deep concentration of sales activity below a million, and then it starts to thin out as you head to the right in the chart, and it thins out even further the farther you go off to the right. And the premiums are also outliers, the premiums and the heavy discounts. So if you look at premiums above 10 million, for example, there's only a few occasions where a buyer paid more than 10% higher than the asking price, and there's only a handful of occasions where buyers paid less than 10%. Both of those are outliers in the data set, and we'll talk about what types of situations result in buyers paying 10% more or even higher, or 10% less or even lower in what they perceive to be a bidding war. We'll talk about that at the end of this presentation. But I did want to note how few the outliers are, and the fact that most of the negotiated premiums or discounts are under 5%. And when we layer on last year's data, first there's a lot more data points, these are the orange dots, you could see the same trend is there for last year. It isn't materially different. There were only a handful of super premium negotiations that happened where buyers paid a lot more than asking, and only a handful of situations where buyers paid dramatically less than asking. So to help you understand this a little better, let's look at this table. And it shows the percentage of sales for single-family houses in Boulder proper where the buyer negotiated a discount to the asking price, or whether they paid asking, or if they paid a premium. And in 2019, during the second quarter, 53% of buyers negotiated a discount, 21% paid the asking price, and 26% paid a premium to the asking price. This year, during the second quarter, 50% paid a discount to the asking, 23% paid the asking price, and 28% paid a premium to the asking price. Well, what sort of premiums and discounts are we talking about? And that's one of the most important questions, both for buyers and sellers. It influences strategy to list. If you are trying to get a property sold for asking or more, that's one strategy. If you're planning to price it at a premium and negotiate a typical discount, that's another strategy. It's important to have these types of conversations both with buyers and sellers as you're thinking about the home that you're thinking about buying or selling. And in 2019, for those negotiations where buyers paid a premium, the median premium paid was 2.4%, and where there were negotiated discounts, the median was 2.2%. And this year it wasn't materially different during the second quarter. When there was a premium paid, the median premium was 2.6%, and when there was a discount negotiated by the buyer, it was the same, 2.6%. That's remarkable consistency in where buyers and sellers kind of end up. 2.5% is a good rule of thumb if you're going to go into a perceived bidding war, or if you're trying to negotiate a discount. That's probably about where you're going to end up. And there's a lot more to be said on that topic. It's, again, the median. It may give you comfort if you knew you negotiated a premium that was less than 2.5%. It may give you comfort to know that you're well within the bounds of a normal offer if you're trying to negotiate on a property that's more seasoned and you're running into a deal that's roughly about 2.5% below asking. That's right there in the median. It's not an abnormally large or small discount. And I just want to add one more piece in that as much as getting a good deal matters, what really matters for most home buyers is getting the right property. And paying a slight premium to the asking price to get the right property is almost always worth it in the long run for long-term happiness in your real estate decision. And when you're representing the seller, it's a little bit different. Typically, most sellers care the most about maximizing the sale price and minimizing the time on market and the potential of the deal falling apart. Those are entirely separate conversations. Discussion points, we'll come to those maybe in another video. Or if you're a client and you want to have that conversation one-on-one, I'm happy to walk you through a lot of the logic, a lot of the emotional factors that go behind these negotiations and help you see through the smoke and mirrors. Okay, now we're going to talk about the full city. We're going to include gun barrel in these analyses, largely because the data set that is available easily from the MLS for long periods of time includes gun barrel. The blue area on this chart, so this chart shows inventory for the city of Boulder, and it's just single-family houses, no condos or attached dwellings, and again includes gun barrel. The blue shaded area is the 3-year average, and Boulder is a very seasonal market. It is probably what you expect. Inventory is the lowest in December, and then it starts to climb, and it typically hits its peak in June. Inventory is a little lower in July, and then it dramatically starts to come down, and it reaches the bottom again in December. And the yellow line in this chart is the last 12 months. So the most current data is for June, the month that just closed, and you can see that June had slightly lower inventory citywide than the long-term average for the month. Well, what about sold volume? As we know, sold volume already fell off a cliff. I already showed you that data of almost 40% for the whole city. And here you can see where it happened. It happened largely in April and May, and the market started coming back up in June. And we just finished the month with a lot of closings, many of which probably would have happened in April or May. I think that these were largely just pushed forward, but not enough pushed forward to actually exceed the long-term average for June. Sales volume was still below average in June and well below average in April and May, so the second quarter of this year had dramatically low sales volume. This is just illustrating that table I showed you earlier in a chart form. And absorption is another way to think about this. It's a common metric for real estate analysts, and what you're looking at are the most recent month's sales volume relative to the preceding month's inventory levels. And that's because it takes 30 to 45 days for most deals to close. And you can see absorption fell off a cliff in April and May, just like sales volume, exactly what you'd expect to see. And June's absorption rate was also well below average. Okay, so how about some conclusions? We're trying to make this a little bit faster of a presentation. Thank you for bearing with me. And one of the biggest conclusions you should reach after reviewing this analysis is that even though sales volume fell off, and even though inventory did not fall off as steeply, buyers were not able to negotiate dramatically larger discounts on average. It more or less looked like last year, with about half of new listings are going to sell for a discount to asking, and about 1 in 4 are selling for the asking price, and about 1 in 4 are getting the bidding war, or perceived bidding war. And I keep saying perceived, and if you're attuned to that, you probably know why, and we could talk about that more in another video, or you could always call me. If you're a client, happy to talk to you about the bidding wars and multiple offer negotiation strategies. So 1 in 4 houses are selling for a premium, and where there's that premium, it's roughly about 2.5%. It doesn't mean you shouldn't offer a lot more, but it is something to think about. If the median is 2.5, and there are plenty of replacement properties available, should you be offering a lot more than that? And by replacement properties, I mean one of the things we do with our clients is we look at what sold during the last 12 months that fits the criteria that you're currently looking for. And if it turns out that there were 30 or 40 homes that matched your rough criteria and price range, your location, there really is no need to go guns blazing on a bidding war. But if you're looking at something that might be perceived more like a unicorn, it's exceptionally rare, and your needs line up particularly well with it, it may be worth paying a premium well in excess of 2.5%. There was a recent deal in Martin Acres for a pretty basic ranch that had been completely remodeled, professional landscaping, and it looked great. It was on a decent street, but not an amazing street. And I talked to the listing agent because I couldn't believe what it sold for. It sold for $150,000 over the asking price. And she said that there were a number of offers. I think about 6 is what she said, and most of them were in the 50,000 range. But for this particular buyer, their unique circumstances made them really want this house, and so they went guns blazing on what I would consider to be the most replaceable type of property, the one that you'll see replicated over and over again. And they paid $150,000 more than the asking price. So that's, I hope they're happy. I'm not mentioning their property address. Usually people are pretty satisfied with their real estate choices, but they clearly overpaid dramatically for it, in my professional opinion. And if it was the same situation for a house in Newlands or Mapleton Hill, I wouldn't be talking about the replaceability of that property, because most of those homes are one-off. It is the only one, and if it's the one you really want, then you have to offer a price that you feel really good about. And that often falls down to a personal decision. If you're going to be entering into a bidding war, if you're going to be paying more than the asking price, you really need to do your homework. And there's no shortcut to doing your homework. Intelligent decisions are based on deep market knowledge, and you have to go down that rabbit hole as deep as necessary to get comfort with what's a reasonable price to pay for the asset. So I'm Osman with House Einstein. Our goal is to help you make a smarter real estate decision. You could sign up for our Fresh Listings newsletter. I'll provide a link in the description of this video. It's also on our website at the top right. You could sign up for Fresh Listings. And every week we talk about what we think are the most interesting listings to hit the market and give you an honest opinion about those listings, both pros and cons. We have to send it to you via private newsletter because we are talking about active listings, and the only way to do that is with prospective clients, and that has to be via email. So sign up for that. You can also subscribe to this channel. You'll see the little button right there on the right to subscribe right on the video, and you can check out our Instagram, our Facebook. Every once in a while we're also on Twitter. I'll include those in the description of this video, and you could actually just call me. My phone number is right here at the bottom of the slide, and often that's the best way to reach me in person. Emails sometimes get lost in the shuffle. I'd love to hear from you. We always welcome your feedback. Good luck out there in real estate land, and I encourage you to make a smarter real estate decision.